Hello, everybody. Welcome to the second episode of the Film Nobodies podcast. Uh, I have Jason over here on the internet this time. We're not able to meet in person for this, so we're going to do this over over the internet. And so today we're going to be talking about The Godfather, as you can tell by the background in his video. Um, so I guess we can just get straight into it. First of all, obviously, Godfather, one of the best movies of all time. I think we talked about it in the last video about how you said it could have been in your top five when we were talking
Yeah.
about it. Yeah, I
hmm
mean, me too. I mean, it's one of the best movies ever made. Um, really well executed, well made. It's captivating. I think everybody knows that. Today, I think we're gonna focus on um, our thoughts on the movie, um, what we liked, disliked about it, and keep it really, really simple. Um, Obviously, with the likes, we're gonna have a lot to talk about. So I'll start with what I think is the best part of this movie, and I think it is the characters, specifically Michael Corleone and Don Corleone, Vito Corleone. I think that they are such. I think Michael specifically has such a well-developed character arc, one of the best I've ever seen in any movie ever. Uh, Him starting out as like this, family guy, or not family guy, but like he's not
Yeah.
associated with the family at all. He
Yeah.
doesn't. He's not involved in the criminal aspects of anything. Um, and then progressing slowly into becoming the Don of the family is like really well done. I think that's probably the best part of the movie in my opinion, and the part that makes it one of the best movies of all time for me personally. Um, but I don't know. How do you feel about that?
I think it's definitely like one of the best made movies overall. But I think the writing is really what
You
makes
think
the
so?
movie so good. The characters are really fantastic, but the story itself and the way it's written and how it all kind of comes together, both in part one and part two, I think is really what makes it. That's what I think makes a really good movie. Honestly, is the story, the foundation of it.
That's true.
And if that's not solid, then you're just watching entertainment, for entertainment's sake. But with The Godfather, you get entertained, but the story itself is like it really immerses you. And then the characters and the character arc, like you're talking about, is really cool to see. But the other performances by like James Caan, Marlon Brando, and Diane Keaton and so forth, those were all, I mean, it's just really well performed movie, period.
True.
Well directed, well written, good performances, great story. It's just like all of the pieces that you need for a fantastic movie that's going to be iconic to come together. And Coppola, I think it's the movie that made him, the name he is today. Um, and then if you watch part two is to me probably equal to part one in how good it is. It's a really good sequence of movies. I mean, they come together as like one long movie if you watch part one and part two. Part three, we could talk another day about, but part two, I thought they did a fantastic job, like merging the stories together, giving you some background Marlon Brando and all these other things. So I thought it came together really really well. I really like some of the scenes with Michael, like as you see, him come from like you were saying, kind of that. He's a war hero.
Yep.
He wants to build a family with Kay and all these other things, and he finds himself with this duty and this responsibility to take care of his father and his family because that's a very Sicilian thing to do is to take care of your family and family first. So he does that without any hesitation, and that just builds him into the man he feels like he has to become. And then that narrative for the rest of the film and then and into part two plays out with him feeling like he doesn't have a choice but to do what he does to protect his family and to do what he has to do for his kids and so forth. And then in part three, you see him trying to get out of it and all this other stuff. But in one and two, it was clear that he didn't feel like it was good or bad. It was just what he had to do,
Yeah.
which I thought was really, an interesting angle when you look at it from Michael's perspective and how he had to kind of grow into a role that he originally didn't have any intent to do in his life. And I think that that kind of plays out in real life. I mean, I think a lot of us have these ideas in our head that we're going to do this or we're going to become that, and reality gets in the way. And in this case, it was his father. He had to become a mafia lord. So it was to me. I think that's like that story, like you were saying, the arc of Michael. I think is like one of the best told character stories in film, and I really think that that's a key part of that story, obviously. But the way it's performed and the story it's wrapped around is what really makes it sell, I think.
Yeah, no, I actually kind of agree with you. I mean, the writing and the characters, I guess, go hand in hand because, I mean, you can't have good characters without good writing. So I guess I do agree with you. The writing probably is what makes the movie so special. Um, and yeah, I mean, I think that, I don't want to forget about any of the other characters either. Like Sonny, um, Tom Hagen.
Hmm.
Um, they're all also very well written. I think that's what brings it all together is how they interact with each other and
Yeah.
how it
Hmm.
develops and how they conflict with one another.
Yeah.
I think one of the best scenes in the movie is when Michael goes to the meeting with Solozo and the cop, and he goes into the bathroom, gets the gun, and shoots both of them. I think that's one
Yeah.
of the best scenes in the movie because I think that kind of turns everything. It really shows the development of Michael's character, like it highlights it, um, and it's
Hmm.
super thrilling. I mean, it's like suspenseful because the whole time, the whole movie, you're like, oh, Michael's like just he's not a part of this stuff. Like all these
Hmm.
other guys are the badasses, like
Yeah. So you're wondering if he could go through with it. Yeah.
exactly. Like
Yeah.
Sonny is like joking around, like, oh, Michael, stop fooling around. And Michael's like locked in, like, no, I want to do this because like I need to, like you're saying.
Yeah.
So when he actually carries through, like you're the whole time you're like, I don't know, like something bad's gonna happen because that's what they make it seem like. Like Michael is cooked, right?
Yeah.
But then he actually goes and he does it and he kills both of them and it's like, oh wow, this is not what I expected it to be at all. Because like at
Hmm.
first you think it's Vito that's going to be the main character of the story, and I mean in a way he is, but in reality,
Yeah.
that scene is what makes Michael the main character, in my opinion. And then he has to go to like
I
Sicily
don't
and
know. I
stuff.
don't know if that's the scene that makes him the main character. I do think it's the scene that makes Michael, the head of the family. He's now the one that
Yeah, that's fair.
is going to be responsible. But I think the part that really made him like was that transition scene was when he was in the hospital with his father.
I was thinking that too. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, you're right.
when he's on there, Marlon Brando's crying, right, and he's like, okay, I've got to do this. That's the thing that I think like galvanizes Michael to say, I have no choice. I mean, I can't,
Yeah.
I can't let my father, um, be threatened or let my family be threatened. I've got to do what I got to do. And then I think that sets the path that he goes on, right? And then that's like made, more solid by that whole scene in the restaurant. And that's the part where that Michael has, what it takes to do the hard stuff. The part about the movie that I thought was I'm not sure about in terms of how I feel is when he's going to Sicily
Hmm.
to hide right
Right.
after the event, right? He has to go to Sicily and then he gets married and falls in love and all these things, right? And that part where he's falling in love and he gets married out there is I don't know, it almost feels a little bit like a distraction in the plot
Yeah.
until she gets killed. And then that to me was like the point where Michael has to suffer the consequences of the responsibilities he's just taken on. So now he's no longer just he also understands, oh, this whole other threat, this is real, like I can lose
Yeah.
people I really care about. And I think it makes him more of a villain at that point, because then he feels like he has to be more aggressive throughout that film, and then going into the second and third films he's more aggressive. But that part of the film almost feels like distraction until that happens, and you kind of understand why that's in there, I think, a little bit more. And it's I think it was important for his character for that to happen, or something like that to happen. So I guess that was the way to do it. I don't know how you felt about it.
Would you say that that Michael by the end of the movie is a villain at that point?
Uh, I mean, objectively, I think, yeah, he is
I
he is a
guess.
villain. I mean, he's a mafia guy, right? I mean, he's the
Yeah.
bad guy. These guys kill people, they sell drugs, they do things, but
Because he's
um,
worse in the second movie. Like I'd say he's an actual
yeah.
villain in the second movie, for sure. You're like, because you're kind of unsure through the second movie. Like I mean, you could tell he's a villain because of the things he does, but in your head, I mean, he's the main character, so he's still kind of the hero in your head. At least for me, he kind of was. Because he still wants to protect his family, he still wants to do right by certain people,
Hmm.
so he still has some sense of morality. But yeah, I mean, the big decision at the end of part two when he decides to kill Fredo, that was the huge branching of paths. Like, are you
Hmm.
gonna, actually side with your family, or are you gonna live, off of, you know,
Yeah.
fear and selfishness and kill your brother?
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
so I kind of agree with you. I think that was solidified there, but I think like towards the middle of part two, um, he became a villain to me. I think the scene that sticks out to me is when he's fighting with Kay, and like they're in the hotel room,
Oh yeah.
and it's like a huge monologue, and he just like goes off on her, and I'm just like, no, dude. Like you're like he's like, you're not taking the kids away from me. I'll do whatever it takes. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, this guy doesn't care about anybody else right now. He only cares about his own pride. And
Yeah.
it kind of reminds me. Now that I'm talking about it, it kind of reminds me of Walter White from Breaking Bad a little bit. But I won't spoil that for anybody watching. Um,
That is true though.
it's kind of like it's a
I mean,
pride
there's
thing,
kind of a
because
yeah.
he starts out, whatever. But uh, yeah, I think that's kind of the arc that he has. He at first he has the intentions of like getting vengeance for his
Yeah.
family because they were done wrong by all of the
Mhm.
families. So he felt he had to take it upon himself to kill all of them and get rid of them
Mhm.
because they were enemies. But I think it turned into something else when he had to adapt his personality to it and become the
Mhm.
mob boss. I think it took over his whole his
Yeah.
his whole mind. I think it warped him.
Mhm. Yeah, and then he started getting greedy, and
Hmm.
yeah, that's when it starts to go south for him, because at that point it's not about your family and doing what you feel like you have to do. Now that's just an excuse for you to build your kingdom.
Yeah, his empire.
And yeah, the ego part of it. So yeah, I think in part three, Coppola tried to bring that back a little bit and bring some of the um, goodness of Al Pacino, or I mean, of Michael's character, back to the fold. But I don't know. Part three probably deserves its own unique review because it doesn't feel as seamless as part one and two. And I mean, to me, it just definitely wasn't as good as one and two. It's still a good movie by itself, but
The
I think they
whole
tried to
thing.
wrap things up in part three, and they did in some aspects. I just don't think the part three story was told as well, and the performances weren't as good. I wasn't a huge fan of like Andy Garcia
Yeah.
in his performance. It was okay, but I think it was pretty overplayed. Definitely not as good as Michael's or Al Pacino's character in the first and second one, and how that character evolved, and how well that was told. So definitely a difference there. But anyway, if you stay on part one and part two, the whole uh, him going from this goody goody war hero
Hmm.
to at the end of part two, like just kind of a matter of fact bad guy, is really interesting. And then all the scenes in between that kind of help evolve that story. But it doesn't really work if there aren't good performances around him and a good story behind it. So like when you're talking about Sonny and Fredo and stuff like that, like Sonny's character, I think, was a perfect contrast to Michael, and it really
Yeah.
helps set the foundation for why Michael was the obvious choice to run the family. Sonny was a hothead and
Yeah.
all that stuff like that. But in when we talk about like who has pure intentions, I think Sonny would be the one that would have more pure intention.
I agree. Actually, now
Yeah.
that you say it, yeah, because I mean, like, uh, Sonny's reputation is, yeah, him being a hothead, and it kind of,
Hmm.
puts a bad connotation on his character. But I think you're right. He had the best intentions out of all of them. I mean, I guess Michael had good intentions at first too, but
Hmm.
I think Sonny, like, he was already up there. Like, he was gonna be the next boss, and he kept his intentions
Hmm.
pure. So, um, I think that's why seeing him get ambushed towards the end or somewhere in the middle, whatever, seeing him get ambushed is like tragic because he really was a good guy. Well, not a good guy, but in terms of mafia bosses, he was
Yeah.
one of the better ones. You know,
I
um,
mean, he was not, he would never kill his brother.
yeah, he would never
You
kill his
know.
brother.
Yeah. But he
At
was
least,
cheating on his wife a lot, so
yeah, yeah. He's not a good
there was
guy.
that.
He's not a good guy. But like in terms of morality issues,
Yeah.
being like a mob boss, crime lord, he probably would have adopted Vito's mindset because Vito is also kind of like that. Like he had his
Yeah.
morality. Um,
Hmm.
he probably wasn't as good as Vito because I think there was some issues with the heroin stuff at the beginning that like I think Sonny really wanted to push for that, but I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
because he
besides.
saw money in it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But
Yeah.
like when it's in terms of what Michael was doing, I don't think Sonny would have leveled up to that.
Mm.
Because I mean, he also didn't have a chance to spiral like Michael did either. So I guess I don't know. You never know. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, either way, seeing him die like that was tragic because he was going to you know get vengeance for the husband of Connie who was like beaten on her, right?
Yeah.
Like that whole subplot honestly gets kind of overlooked too because I really like that subplot with Connie and her husband and how Sonny's like trying to like stop him from like abusing his wife, but like there's also the conflict of the fact that members of the family can't interfere with husband wife situations even if it involves domestic abuse. Seeing Sonny struggle with that was really interesting
Hmm.
because that's where you really see him be a hothead. You know,
But
um,
funny enough though, Michael's the one that took it to the next level.
that's true.
You know. You
Because I
know?
mean, Sonny
So,
never got the chance. He got tricked
yeah.
and ambushed. So
So
that
Michael
was
kind of finished it off and said,
that
you
was
know,
probably the most satisfying part of the movie. Seeing that guy get strangled in the car was so satisfying. It was, yeah. I mean, he deserved it. He absolutely deserved it because he got Sonny killed. He ratted him out, or not
hmm.
ratted him out, but worked with the other
Well, he
families to
did.
get him killed,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And he
Ratted him out and beat his wife, and yeah, he's just definitely
like
not
literal
a great
scumbag of the
guy.
earth.
Yeah.
Probably worse than some of the other villains in the movie, like Salloza or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but I really
Luca
like that.
Brasi.
I really like that subplot. Actually, I think it
Yeah.
gets really overlooked. Um,
That's it. Yeah. I mean, it's a good point. And there's a couple of subplots in uh in the movie that when you zoom out and you look at the movie, there's different parts to it. Like the whole thing with him in Sicily, with Michael in Sicily, the whole thing with Connie and her husband, and then the whole transition of Michael into the Don, the uh, family itself, and kind of, or the families,
Yeah.
and Luca Brasi and all the
Let's
players
think about Luca Brasi
at the
too.
table, and all that stuff is there's so many components to the story that really you know come together to tell this family what this family's all about and what's happening. And then I think part two did a really good job kind of giving you an understanding how it all started. And then you can't discount Robert De Niro's
Mm-hmm.
performance as the young Vito and how he came up to be. But and if you look at the character of Vito, to me, Vito is like a almost a combination of Sonny and Michael because he's level-headed like Michael. He's very matter of fact and he's very calm and cool and collect under pressure. But he also has no qualms about violence against people he feels are going to either take something from him or threaten him
True.
or his family. So what he did with the Black Hand in Sicily and
Mm.
in New York, and then what he does, to build his family, his empire, and protect his family and so forth. To me, it was like this combination of what you see play out with Michael and Vito. I mean, Michael and Sonny,
Yeah.
as different characters. They're almost like different personas. With Fredo being this kind of
Goofball,
um,
dude.
a goofball, knucklehead brother. So, um, but to so we talked a lot about the characters and all this other stuff, but in terms of the writing, what is your favorite scene in dialogue, or even just like your a quote that really that you'll always remember from them, if you remember any of the quotes? But just from like a writing perspective, what do you think is the best scene that played out from a monologue perspective? And then what are some good quotes?
That's a very good question. I mean, um, obviously one that sticks out to me is the beginning where with the wedding and people are like going up to Don Corleone and like asking for favors and stuff like that, and
Hmm.
you get introduced to his character, and seeing him like who what kind of man he is and stuff like that, especially with whatever this the singer guy, whatever Johnny Fontaine.
Johnny Fontaine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that whole situation, like seeing that play out, you really got to see Vito for who he truly was. You know?
So yeah, but one of the more interesting scenes I thought was good was the scene Coppola put in there where there was a little bit of comedy and Luca Brasi comes to the boss to kind of like offer um, his, may your first child be a masculine child thing. I thought it was kind of funny because you could tell Vito Corleone was having to humor him,
Yeah.
because he was like a very loyal person to the family and very protective. So he's like, oh, this is cute kind of thing. I thought that was a really uh, good way to inject a little bit of humor, but it was really well played, just the way that it came off because you could feel Luca's like nervousness
Yeah.
in the film. You could feel it, like this guy's like huge hulking guy, probably murdered 2 dozen people in his lifetime,
Yeah.
but
Exactly.
he's nervous to just express his warmth to Vito. So I thought that was pretty funny. But there's like plenty of lines
Yeah.
from
I mean, there's
that
so many
movie
iconic
one and
lines.
two.
You know, look how they
Yeah,
massacred my boy. You know, like
yeah,
all that
yeah.
stuff. You come
There's
to
no
me on the
shortage
day of
of
my
that.
daughter's wedding. All
Yeah,
that stuff. I mean, like, there's a reason why they're iconic. You know.
yeah. They're well written. So trying to pull quotes out of the movie, I guess, is kind of silly because there's so many of them. But I do like that scene and the way it was written. I
I
love the
agree.
scene
I agree.
as like Michael's talking to Vito on at the hospital,
Yep.
and how that whole thing plays out, and the real fear and like how clever it was of Michael to grab the baker, remember, to go out there and pose as a hitman, so that it looked like they got people at the hospital protecting
Oh
Vito.
yeah, that's
You
right.
remember?
Yeah,
Yeah, and then the
that's
car
right.
drives past. I thought that was clever. And so that as a backup, right, the bad guys call in the cop. I forget his name now, the
Yeah.
character name.
Hmm.
But he comes with his stormtroopers and tries to uh, get interfere and stuff. But anyway, that whole scene. I thought was really well written and played out really well. And that whole narrative between Vito and Michael is really cool. The what you talked about in the hotel room with
Oh,
Kay and
yeah.
Michael, that was really well written and well performed.
That's probably my favorite, like, like standalone dialogue scene
Hmm.
between both movies, in my opinion, because it
Yeah,
really left me like speechless. I was like, wow, this is the kind of dude that Michael has turned into. Because he started off
yeah,
like in the first movie you see at the beginning, he's like with Kay, like cares about her and all that stuff, and you don't really see them like interact too much
yeah,
until that scene. And it's like, wow, this
yeah,
guy kind of sucks, you
yeah,
know? And I was like, wow, this is really well written. It's insane. Like one of the best
yeah.
dialogue scenes ever, dude. Like it's really good. And
So what you haven't talked about though is what you didn't like.
that's true. I think, I mean, there's not a lot that I don't like. And honestly, the things that I don't like are very minuscule, like not even um, like big things. I think the only thing that comes to mind that's actually that I think could have been better is I thought the story was a little bit convoluted. It's very hard to follow at times, especially with names and like you know where people are going, what people are doing. It all
Hmm.
kind of comes out like like a slip and slide. You know, you get all these names at once, and they kind of expect you to just like know it, and then so like further down the line they say the name again, and it involves something really important, and you're like, wait, who is that again? And you have to rewind and
Yeah,
like find out who it is. Oh, it's okay, it's Luca Brasi. That's right, that guy. Right.
yeah.
Eventually, you really learn the names, especially if you watch it again. Right. But if you're like just someone casually watching the movie and you know, and you're hearing all these names, I could see how people could get confused, and it kind of like I wouldn't say ruins the
Yeah,
story, but it gets in the way. It distracts you from what the story's trying to tell you. Um, so
yeah.
I think that's the
That's a
biggest
good
thing.
point. You do have to watch it a couple times, even a few times, to really appreciate,
Yeah,
the entire story that's being told and the depth of the character. So that's a good point. Because I mean, but I guess that's kind of what makes the difference between a film being something that really stands the test of time and is like a true art form versus a film that's just really pure entertainment. So if you compare something like what Coppola did with The Godfather to something like Michael Bay film,
yeah,
obviously you could just jump into a Michael Bay film and be entertained, but in order to really appreciate something like The Godfather, you got to watch it. Like you have to watch the movie, listen to the dialogue, and then probably rewatch it
yeah,
just
yeah,
to I definitely didn't like capture everything the first time. I rarely do. I have a hard time doing that anyway. I've got to watch a movie 2 3 times before I really like remember names and I remember or I start to recognize subplots that I didn't see before, those kinds of things. So but this is definitely one of those movies, so but
right,
it's
yeah.
it's definitely worth watching more than a
Yeah, I
couple of
mean,
times.
it hardly gets in the way. I mean, it's you know, so it's just kind of a preference thing, I guess.
Mhm.
This is where I would kind of compare it to like a movie like Goodfellas, you know, which is also very good mafia movie. That's something I think that Goodfellas does better, is keeping everything like super easy, not super easy to understand, but like easier to follow, so that when
It's a
you're
simpler plot.
it's a
Yeah,
simpler plot. I mean, yeah, that's true.
yeah.
But you're watching it, and it's like all these names come up, and I mean, it's still a lot of names, a lot of people, but it's easier
Hmm.
to digest. When with The Godfather, like you said, you kind of have to watch it a couple times to
Hmm.
really digest the names and like what people are actually doing. Um, so I mean, that'd probably be the only complaint I have with the movie, and it's not really that big at all. Um, but do you have any complaints with the movie at all?
Do I have
Anything
any what?
complaints with the movie at all? Like,
No, not really. I just like some of the subplots can seem a little distracting until you've rewatched it and then you understand.
True.
But no, kind of like you.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think everything else is great. So, um, but one more thing with the
Sorry, your mom is telling me we gotta go in
mom,
a
we're in a
minute. So,
podcast. Um,
Mom!
I'll say one more thing, and then we can get to rating the movie, and then we can end it.
Okay.
Going back to the what you were talking about with like best dialogue scenes. Another one that comes to mind that I think it's a little overlooked is the scene uh, towards the end where Vito's talking to Michael for the last time, and they're sitting in like the chairs, and Vito's talking because this is at this point Michael has become like the boss now, and Vito is like he like dies like soon after, and Vito's telling
Hmm.
him like, "Oh, I wish you didn't have to live this life. This is not the life that I had meant for you." And
Hmm.
he warned him about a plot that was going to be used against Michael, where
Hmm.
uh,
Yeah.
a family friend will come and set a meeting, and that guy's betraying him. He warns him about that, and it kind of just shows that even though Michael is like the head honcho now, he still needs his old man's advice. Like he still needs
Yeah.
his help.
Yeah.
I thought it was just kind of like a nice warm scene amidst all the cold like
Yeah.
death and chaos that's going on. I thought that was a nice little scene that honestly was needed in the movie because you start to think that
Yeah.
Vito's a little irrelevant at this point because Michael's now the head guy. But then when they have that conversation, you realize that okay, Vito, he really is as good as everybody said he was. Even right before death, he is
Yeah.
still smarter than
And I
Michael in
think
some ways.
yeah, and I think you see the consequences of his dad not being around because in part two, he does some really, crappy stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that also drives home why, you know, Michael becomes more of a villain is, his dad's not around to give him that kind of moral boundaries in this really immoral world they live in,
Right.
which is kind of an interesting,
Very fair
twist
point.
because yeah, because if you look at Robert De Niro's intent in the young Vito, his intent was not to be this kingdom building guy necessarily. It was a means to an end. There's this guy, in the neighborhood taking
Yeah.
advantage of people and taking food off his table. So
That's
he did
right.
something about it. And in doing that, he created something out of nothing. But Michael's motivations were different. Michael's motivations became about ego when his father passes away, and I think he loses sight of that until you get into part three. And I think, like I said, the story tries to make up for that. But yeah, I agree. I think that there's a nice warm feeling there, and then you kind of feel sad when the head of the mafia, Vito Corleone, dies.
Yeah.
you know, Playing with his grandkid in the backyard, and so that is an interesting twist in the movie, and I think it impacts the arc of Michael's character pretty dramatically.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so let's get to rating.
Okay. Okay.
What is your 1 to 10 your for general movie rating?
I mean, I feel like I'm being kind of basic here, but I have to give The Godfather a 10 out of 10. I mean, it's one of the best movies ever made. There's no exaggeration. It's hard to follow at some points, but I mean,
Mhm.
like I said, it doesn't really get in the way too much. If you really are focusing on the movie like you should be, it's not too hard to pick up on everything.
Mhm.
And other than that, there aren't really any major flaws with the movie. So I have to give it a 10 out of 10.
I would say the same. It's 10 out of 10. That's it, and that's all.
Yeah.
Because it's the example of what a great movie should look like. And it does everything right. It's good writing, it's good performances, it's good directing, it's great sequencing. It's just a fantastic movie. Attention to detail in the production of it. I thought was something that doesn't get talked about a lot, but the scenes that were set, the wedding and the
Yep.
all the the historics with the cars and the homes and the costume and all that stuff. I think was really well done. So
Yeah.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like, there's a reason why The Godfather is in all of the film history books. You know, like,
Yeah.
I like in all of my classes in terms of film history, that's always been in there. It's always been a page or two, and there's a reason
Yeah.
why. I mean, all the dramas in this era have some sort of resemblance of The Godfather.
Mhm.
You know.
You know, we didn't talk about Mario Puzo, who is the writer of it.
Yeah. Right.
He wrote the novel and then also adapted the screenplay for it with Coppola's help. But if you notice when the movie starts, it says this is Mario's Godfather, right? It isn't
Yeah.
doesn't say Francis Ford Coppola. He's the director, but he did that on purpose to give him credit because he thought he did such a great job at adapting his novel into a screenplay,
Wow.
which is,
I did
I
not know
think,
that.
yeah. So I think that really, is worth that in and of itself. And what's kind of interesting is that neither he or Francis Ford Coppola, their other works are really all that well known. Apocalypse Now, is a Coppola
Yeah.
movie. There's a couple others that people probably know from Coppola, but he doesn't have like a litany of movies that people know really well. Like if you look at Steven Spielberg, people could name Spielberg movies left and right. You can't really do that with Coppola.
No.
Um, he's not like, but yet he is still a household name,
Because
mostly
of this
because of The
movie.
Godfather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
that's
that's
true.
how.
You can tell he
Yeah.
has a lot of respect for the not only the film industry and how movies are
Mhm.
made, but the genre itself. You can tell he has a lot of respect for it. So
Yep.
I
Yep.
mean, you kind of just you love to see it, you know. But
Yep.
but thank you guys for watching this second episode of the podcast. We don't know which movie we're going to be doing next, but we will do it soon. We're gonna keep going with these, so stay tuned for the next one. And we appreciate you guys for watching this one. Peace.